Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the second forum of our Overcoming COVID-19 Singapore Strategy to Survive and Thrive in the New Normal e-forum series, titled New Normal, Reinventing Yourself for Pandemic Job Hunting. I'm Yuki from Peking University.
I'm Sophia from Fudan University, and we will be the moderators for this session tonight. To start off, Lily from OSG will be giving us a short opening address. Lily, please.
Yeah, hi. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for taking time this evening on our second evening on reinventing yourself for pandemic job hunting. I'm Lily from OSG Youth Alliance. Please allow me a few minutes to introduce OSG and why we are organizing this e-forum jointly with the Overseas Students Committee here. To begin, OSG Youth Alliance is a social enterprise established in Singapore. We have our presence in Singapore, Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, and Hangzhou. OSG support a network of global-minded and enterprising youth in developing their global-mindedness, resilience, and entrepreneurial spirit. Our core events and activities include OSG Talks series, Mentor for Mentee programs, Youth for Change, Learn for Exposure, and other upcoming signatures events. Okay, like many other social enterprise, in light of the COVID-19 pandemic this year, OSG has leveraged on the popularity of the online platform and started organizing webinars, similar to today's sessions. In April, we introduced OSG Young Founders Weekly webinar, encouraging and motivating young founders to share their entrepreneurial stories to inspire innovation, creativity, and resilience among the youth in tough times like this. Together with two Singapore student organizations in China, Fudan University Singapore Student Association, which is FUSSA, and Singapore Student Association SSAB Beijing, which aim to provide assistance to Singaporean students studying in China, we curated this e-forum series addressing the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic from a student perspective. Right. We hope you will enjoy what they have put together this evening and acknowledge their effort in balancing between their university studies and organizing this e-forum at the same time. And thank you very much for supporting their initiative to seek growth and self-development through active participation in projects like this with OSG. Without further ado, I will hand over the time to our moderator to officially kickstart today's session. Yuki and Sophia, over to you.
Thank you, Lily. So before we introduce our distinguished speakers, let us explain the rationale behind the curation of this forum.
The COVID-19 pandemic presents a volatile and uncertain future as the situation continues to escalate. Having our overseas education abruptly disrupted, the group of us from Peking University and Fudan University felt the first-hand impacts of COVID-19.
We truly felt the need to understand the different concerns shared by Singaporean youths regarding COVID-19, and hence we seized this opportunity to collaborate with OSG to roll out this series of forums.
We hope that this forum series can provide practical insights and advice from professionals, as well as spark in-depth discussion to gain clarity on the issues in different facets of society.
We've received staunch support from organizations to present today's session. We are supported by Singapore Global Network, which broadens and strengthens Singapore's overseas networks, and National Youth Council, which drives youth development in Singapore. Other supporting organizations include Business China Youth Chapter, Singapore Chamber of Commerce and Industry in China, Sinchon, and National Library Board. Personally, I'm a member under BCYC, which is a leading Singapore-based community that inspires Singapore youths to be China-savvy and facilitates the connections with China. Similarly, Sinchon seeks to promote and expand Sino-Singapore economic exchanges, while NLB is our go-to agency for trusted, accessible library and information resources. We have also two student communities supporting us, NUS Enterprise and Ngee Polytechnic Global Entrepreneurship Internship Program.
Today's session is on pandemic job seeking, which is a highly relevant and concerning issue to many of us here today. We have three experts on the panel who will be addressing our questions and concerns. Firstly, through the moderated discussion facilitated by me, and followed by a Q&A segment facilitated by Sophia. So now let's start off with a quick self-introduction for the audience to get to know our speakers better. Serena, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everybody, my name is Serena. I am currently the Senior Director for a technology company that's in the space of cybersecurity in cloud services as well as in content delivery network. I've been a HR practitioner for about 28 years, so ever since I graduated from university, and I'm very delighted to be here to spend this time with you and to share some of my insights with you.
Thank you, Serena. Next up, Frank, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Oh, sure, Yuki. Hi, everyone. Good to see everyone here virtually today. My name is Frank Koo, and I look after the Asia business for talent and learning for LinkedIn. Some of you down here would be members of LinkedIn, and you know that as members, you have your profile on LinkedIn, you post on LinkedIn, you have connections on LinkedIn. So what my team does in Asia is actually to ensure that the employers are looking out for talent like you guys on LinkedIn. And they will brand the company accordingly so that if you're interested, you can follow them. I have spent probably, quite a number of years, I wouldn't say how long, in the industry. I started my career in technology. I was hired into IBM from a campus and spent my first part of my career in technology. And then I decided to go into an education, in transforming education from print to digital and into services. And that brought me to China. And it was about 4 years ago that I decided to return to Singapore after a 2.5 year stint in Shanghai and joined LinkedIn. And it's been a wonderful journey so far and look forward to sharing and learning from more of you here. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Last but not least, Jesher, may we invite you to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. So after you have joined on LinkedIn and after you meet people on LinkedIn, where do you go to meet the person in face-to-face, right? So it's Yakun. So that's where I'm from. To put it short, I'm branding and marketing, market development for Yakun. But to put it simply, I'm third generation. So Yakun is my grandfather. He is a real person. If you ever wonder, he's actually a real person, and he's actually my grandfather. So I've been with the business for about 10 years, straight out of the university, and over the years, we are currently in 9 countries. You can find them on the website, so I won't list them out. But I helped set up a couple of them, not all, but a bunch of them. And then also there are some failures along the way that we opened and closed. So if you want any questions regarding those, I'll be happy to share that. On a day-to-day basis, I'm generally in charge of the branding and marketing. So things like making sure that every shop looks the same, things like the posters, aligning of the themes, who do we bring on, and who do we collaborate and things like that. And then also it's also my office team, my HQ team is well created. They work together, they work efficiently. And so that's from this every day is different as well. I just wanted to spread a little bit about what some other things I do in case people out there have any questions. I also help a little bit with some musical side, some music. So if anyone has questions about freelancing in this economy, maybe I can do a little bit. And then lastly, I'm pretty involved with National Youth Council. So if you have any questions about youth, some of the dynamic, I will try. I think I have much better people in the audience who can answer that. But yeah, I will try. So that's a little bit about my background, and I'm really looking forward to this time together. Thank you.
Thank you for all of your introductions. So over the past week, we have collated a list of questions from our audience online on what they would like to hear about in today's moderated discussion. So now let us hear from our speakers. So for the audience today, do keep your follow-up questions for our Q&A session later, and refrain from using the chat room during this segment, as we will be posting the moderated discussion questions in the chat room for your reference. So first up, we actually have a question for all 3 speakers. So what are some of the immediate impacts that COVID-19 has brought upon your industry and the job market in general? And what are some long-term changes you foresee in the job market? So perhaps Frank, can you share with us some of your observations and insights on this matter?
Yes, sure, Yuki. So being the organization that runs the platform for job search as well as employment, we begin to see quite interesting insights in a LinkedIn platform, beginning actually in early February. And that's when, actually starting from China, the number of job posting actually went down pretty tremendously, beginning from China. And then it spread to East Asia. And then by March, it has gone over to Europe as well as the US. And so we realized that actually the number of job posting on LinkedIn platform actually tracks the spread of coronavirus very, very well. Now, interestingly, on the other hand, the number of job seekers, people who, in your LinkedIn platform express they're open to opportunities, or people that are actually looking at jobs and applying for jobs, and we can see this through AI, we get the reports, it's actually increasing, especially in the March and April timeline. And this is across many industries, but in particular in retail and F&B and tourism sector. So we can see that the coronavirus actually does affect many industries in terms of job opportunities, both in terms of employment roles as well as the number of job seekers in the markets. But a ray of hope actually came in April, in the middle of April, where in China we realized there's a pickup in job postings on LinkedIn. So I think not all is down. There is a ray of hope, and hopefully, over time, when either COVID is getting over, or there is a bit more of herd immunity, or the vaccine is coming closer, then the sentiments of the market will pick up, and therefore the job opportunities will go back up again.
Okay.
Thank you, Frank. What about Serena? What kind of changes do you observe in your industry?
Yeah, maybe I'll share a little bit from the tech industry. So one of the things that we have realized is that this COVID-19 has created an increased demand on technology to support businesses across, right? As well as for job seekers as well. So we see that there's this increased demand on technology that we have. And we see, and with this increased demand in technology, the people in the tech world needs to provide better services and support, because there's suddenly a lot of bandwidth that's being used up in our technology, right? And our networks need to be able to support that. So we have our people in network and in platforms working a lot more to make sure that our platforms remain stable and to be able to provide the services that we have. From a HR perspective, I would say that it's very interesting as well, because what we notice is that now HR is really thrust in the forefront to partner the business even closer, because now HR has to come out with ideas and methodology. How do you engage employees? How do you recruit them remotely? How do you onboard them remotely? What's the best way to continue engaging and performance managing a workforce that's all remote? Yeah.
Thank you, Serena. Jesher, could you share with us some of your thoughts, perhaps from a retail perspective?
Yeah, so obviously retail, hospitality, I mean fun lining, customer facing industries are hit one of the hardest. It's hit hard also because of sentiment. So it's not like it's one of the it's a cluster or something like that, but it's just sentiment. People don't want to go out as much. So we are definitely affected. However, I must say that people are still eating. My challenge to my team is that the population of Singapore has not changed. We are still 6 million very hungry people who need to eat, who need to buy clothes and equipment and stuff like that. Maybe shopping has dipped, but people are just channeling their energy and their resources elsewhere. So in that sense, if your business is very anchored into brick and mortar retail, it is a very, very good time to rechannel your business, because people out there still need to eat and they still need to shop. Granted, not as much, but definitely still so. What I do say, however, is that it has altered the landscape in a very particular way. So I use my own business as an example. Yeah. So for Yakun, we have things like the toaster, the brewer, the cleaners. Different like the cashier. So different stations with different people. And then when first the government did, okay, you've got to reduce the tables. So instead, every table has 1 meter apart. And then next, I beg your pardon, prior to that was actually sticking lines on the floor. Then it was reducing it was splitting the tables, and then finally it became no tables at all. So unfortunately, the ones that the first role that became excess was the ones who clean, and obviously the ones who wash, because it's now there's no serving, there's no cleaning, there is no washing, everything is taken away, right? And so they were the ones that were excessive to the outlet manpower, and not to mention we needed to scatter people in the outlet to maintain a thinner manpower. So what we did was that so the first thing we had to do is that we couldn't say, okay, well, you guys you don't have to do anything. What we first did was we had to redeploy them into maybe more social distancing ambassadors, maybe more of guiding, directing, delivery man and things like that. So straight away they had to be willing to change. But one of the things from the top down was that we said, look, they just because their role became was not needed in this time does not mean that they're not part of the company, and does not mean that we don't take care of them. This pandemic is something that we pass from person to person. What if it was waterborne, for example? Then we all cannot serve coffee. We can only serve toast. Does that mean that the brewers are redundant? They can't. But it's not their fault, right? So the whole idea first is that we assured everybody that this is not your fault. We are one company. You are still with us. But then we need you to make yourself to adapt, to make yourself adaptable, flexible to change. And so we did that, and that's why we tried to retained everybody, all the full-time, to ensure that that's priority. But moving forward, there'll be a lot of discussions on how and what and where do they go and how do they do that. But that's the situation right now. Not just for us. I think a lot of the frontline retailers are feeling that too. And we will discuss in further how it will change very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Jesher. So would Frank or Serena, would you all like to add on to what Jesher has shared just now?
I think what Jesher has mentioned in terms of adaptability is really key as we move forward, right? So, and with young job seekers as they're looking out for opportunities as well, I think it's important that they remember that, to be very adaptable, to be willing to be flexible with what they're looking for, and to be willing to grow along with the organization. So, Jesher, I totally concur with your point.
Maybe just to add that, from the business owner's viewpoint, in fact, I salute Jesher in terms of, wanting really so hard to retain your people. It's not easy because, as all of us know, cash flow is running out for quite a number of companies in many industries. And, the headcount cost is actually a cost to the organization. So it's really admirable for some employers to want to continue to retain the people. At the same time, some employees have no choice but to retrench the people. And then from the job market perspective, then there will be a lot of people in the market looking out for jobs, some of which desperately because they need to support the family. They may have a mortgage to pay. So it's something which it's not an easy situation for Singapore or the rest of the world. And I think sociologists are mindful of that, health experts are mindful of that. But I think all of us also hope that we can be mindful of some of our colleagues, our friends who may be in such situations as well.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you all for sharing your insights on this issue. So now we'll be moving on to the second question, which I believe is in the minds of many students here today. So just now, Serena mentioned the importance of adaptability in graduates today during this period of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we would like to ask, so what are some particular skills that employers and businesses are looking out for in job seekers at this time? And how can fresh graduates calibrate themselves to meet shifting needs like this? So perhaps maybe in terms of personal branding, perhaps Frank, you can share with us some tips on this aspect.
Okay, right. I can start off. So I guess employers have always been looking at certain qualities of job seekers, come COVID or not. I think the only difference is that there is a lot more competition for every job, during COVID, because there are a lot of people who have been retrenched. Now, I think in terms of what they're looking for, I think it's mindful. It's important for job seekers to know that, going for interview or seeking a job, it's not about solving the job problem. It's about solving the employer's business issue. And that's why we still see companies having job openings, but on a very specific area. And why do they do that? Sometimes it's because they are transforming the business model, right? As Serena has shared, there is a huge transformation from brick and mortar business to digital business. So some companies are looking, at transforming the business model to be ready for the new normal. Some are actually reconfiguring the supply chain, right? Because of US-China sanction challenges, some organizations are pulling out from China. In fact, Southeast Asia is one of the beneficiary locations. So, but whatever it is, employers are trying to solve the problem. Now, from the job seekers' perspective, so what do we do, right? First of all, we need, to have a longer term goal, right? Don't if you hope to get a job within the next month or next few months, if you've just graduated, it's going to be difficult, right? So have a long-term goal. Also, the second thing I would suggest is understand yourself, understand what you are good at, and what you want to do for the long term that makes you happy and you can contribute to the organization. And at the same time, where the opportunities are. As Serena says, there are a lot more opportunities in the tech sector, but that does not mean that every one of you have to be a data scientist or a Python programmer, right? As long as you are tech savvy, there are roles that are open that has technology in there, but you can do a lot more things. And in terms of building your personal brand, it's important for you to be able to reach out, right? First of all, I mean, obviously LinkedIn, we provide a platform for you to have your profile in there so that for the first time, sometimes you may not have to look for a job. The jobs can look for you because we enable the talent acquisition or recruiters to look at your profile, and we use AI engine to match the profile to the job requirements. So don't be surprised if sometimes recruiters reach out to you on LinkedIn and ask you whether you're interested in the job, right? But have your profile ready. At the same time, connect with people in companies that are interested to work in industries that are interested to work in, so that you can learn more and maybe perhaps at a certain point in time, ask for advice from them when you apply for a certain company. But the least of all is that our AI engine will look at your connection and would favor you, if you would, in terms of doing a job recommendation. At the same time, share your knowledge about a certain industry, about certain skills on social media. LinkedIn is one, but not necessarily just LinkedIn. You can have many social media platforms where you can share your thought leadership. And so that people know what you stand for, what you're good at, and automatically they'll reach out to you. And especially with AI engine behind many of the platforms, the system can actually do an automatic matching for you in particular areas that you're good at or you're interested in. Yuki, I think you're on mute, Yuki.
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry. So on this note, thank you, Frank. So on this note, actually many students are interested in finding out whether organizations at this point in time, they will be, do they have any plans in increasing the number of incoming employees, such as especially fresh graduates? And what are some industries that fresh graduates this year can look further into, especially in the private sector? Perhaps Serena can share with us more on this issue.
I think for a fresh graduate, when you are looking out for your first job, it is important to show two things. Number one, to Frank's point, what are you passionate about? What do you feel strongly about? And that's the thing that actually comes out in an interview. How do you stand out amongst all the candidates that we see, right? And I'll tell you a little secret. A friend of mine was actually picked up by Google because he was very passionate. So he left his job, he was retrenched, and he went to set up a football club. And Google found that very interesting because he was very passionate about it. He really drove towards it and they reached out to him. And that was his break. And that's why he stood out amongst all the other candidates. So a few things: be authentic, be yourself. whatever you're passionate about, put that out front, show people who you are, and that role that comes across for you would be the right one for you. Okay, there's no point to force fit yourself into a role that it's not quite who you are, right? So at the end of the day, you want to find a place that's the right thing for you. That's number one. I think number two, we spoke about adaptability. So again, you know, I have to stress that. That's very important. And Frank spoke about tech savviness. I think that's also very important. Keeping abreast of what's happening in the market. What are the best ways to connect on an interview? Because all your interviews are going to be remote interviews, virtual interviews, right? So how do you stand out in an interview? How do you stand out as a candidate? How do you present yourself? So maybe take this time to also refresh your presentation skills virtually. How do you present yourself virtually? How do you answer interview questions as well? I think those are some of the key things that you can use this time to brush up on. So when the job opportunity comes, that's your time to shine.
Thank you very much, Serena. So Jesher, from a business owner point of view, so do you have any other advice that you'd like to share with our audience here today?
Yeah, I do agree very much with what Serena said about passion. I just wanted to come down to two simple things for my own experience watching and interviewing and guiding also. The first one is initiative. Well, we can't find initiative. It's very hard to find initiative in an interview. So maybe that's something that may or may not come through. But it's in an organization when you are, I'm sorry to say, by the bottom of the food chain, you're just fresh, you join. What we want to see is just initiative, willingness to do, willingness to step up. And surprisingly, sometimes it doesn't come as easy because you will be, self-doubt. You will have, you'll be overthinking the situation. You think that somebody's better than me, someone's going to do it. But sometimes we don't need the right person. We just need someone willing to do something, step into the gap. So initiative is one thing. So that will get you very far. In army, anywhere, some people who just step forward may not be always the coolest person, right? We all want to be cool. But it's always the person that the leader looks to, the teacher looks to. So that's one. But one thing I always look for in an interview as an interviewer is willingness to learn. Now, and that is a bit counterintuitive because you spent, let's say your degree is 4 years, all right? So, or poly 3 years, regardless. Your last year, you are the bigger shot in the school. You have completed all your classes. You've done all your exams. You are graduating. Everyone's looking towards you. You are looked up to, all right? So you're the biggest, you've reached the pinnacle of that ecosystem, right? Poly, ITE, uni, anywhere. You're the top of the ecosystem. And then you go to an organization and you go to a new place and you start at the bottom again. It's that dropping off the cliff. But I feel sometimes people retain that ambition of being on top, that feeling, that euphoria of being on top. And then they think that they subconsciously or not, they bring it into the organization or into the interview. And then straight away, as interviewers, maybe we have 5, 7, 10 years of experience. We interview somebody. We're looking for someone who doesn't have to know everything. Absolutely. We never expected you to know everything. But we want to know that you're coming to be imparted the relevant skills to contribute back. And it will take 6 months, 1 year. It's not like you join today, tomorrow you're going to contribute. Even if you're a designer and I throw you a work, I don't expect you to get it right the next day. So let alone business development, marketing, accounts, everything. So, but there is that cliff drop. And I think not everybody acknowledged that cliff drop. And so in an interview, we really look for people who are willing to learn. So my industry, across the board, I can't speak for maybe very, very niche industries, IT or research, but retail, businesses, consultants, these are not things that are very, very difficult to learn. And likewise, they're not very difficult to teach. But if you come in with the resistance, like, I already know, I don't want to listen to you that much. I'm going to, how do I put it? Like, you're going to complete my sentence because you come across as you already know. I'm going to find it's going to be a hard time for me to concentrate on my own work and then to also guide and train you. And then that may be something that sets you apart. But somebody who comes and says, this is what I've done, through my education. I'm wanting to learn, teach me, I'm good to go. Things like that. I find that is very attractive when presented properly. So that is that is just a bit of my own 2 cents. One more thing to say though is that the market will change again. COVID-19 has obviously overhauled the workplace. So the way companies hire, the way what Serena said is true. You got to practice how to do a virtual interview, right? I mean, who would have thought of that? But even then, maybe the way we structure work hours will change. So how are you going to be effective working from home? How are you going to be effective being mentored when the boss is not beside you anymore, or your HOD is not beside you anymore? How are you going to show initiative in a WhatsApp group? You know, things like that will change. And I suspect too, I've been thinking a lot about how can we also help the job market, right? And it could be very flexi hours. I can't pay you your full pay or what you want to get, you know, but if it means flexi pay with flexi hours, but at least it keeps you busy, it keeps you learning, it keeps you involved, it keeps you inside group discussions that you can learn. Maybe that's something to work with first until this thing, you know, until the end of the year. And then we can mutually say that, okay, the market is better. If you find something good for yourself, you can go. But these things will change. And maybe it's up to the students, like the graduates, to be flexible and to be ready to see whether you can fit into something. And this can fit to you as well, your perspective as well. So yeah, maybe that may change. I don't know.
Thank you, Jesher. Now, I believe we do have some young working professionals here with us today. And so the third question might be of interest to some of you here. So would it be advisable for someone with working experience to consider a career switch at this point in time? Would Serena or Frank like to take this question first?
Sure, I can go first. I think at the end of the day, you need to ask yourself, where are you heading to? Where do you want to head to at the end of the day? If, let's say, your aim is to be the CEO and you want to do a career switch right now because you want to pick up the different experiences, say from HR, you want to move to finance or something else, and the opportunity comes about, that's something to consider. The other thing to also think about is where are you in terms of your own personal financial situation. With all career switches, there's some amount of risk, okay? Let's not kid ourselves. There's going to be some amount of risk if that organization is going through some form of restructuring. You've heard of last in, first out, right? So there is some amount of risk associated with that. Now, if you are relatively still young in your career, you don't have much financial obligations, and an opportunity comes along, sure, take it up, get the experience and go and learn it. I think that's great. So there is no one direct answer for it. At the end of the day, the question you ask yourself is, where are you heading to? Is that career switch important enough for you to take the risk? Can you afford that risk? So these are the 3 questions you need to ask yourself. That's my view.
I see. Thank you, Serena. So how about Frank? What is your take on this issue of career switch amidst COVID-19?
Yeah, I agree with Serena, because you need to assess your personal financial situation. And this actually, beyond financial situation, there's also your personal health situation. If you are strong, you know, if you are not suffering from insomnia right now, right? Some of people are, I know. If you have a strong mental mindset, and as what Jesher has shared, if you believe that you're someone with a good learning agility, with a growth mindset, you know, you think that you are resilient enough to shoulder some of the pains along the way. Bear in mind that when you get into any new role, there is an upward learning curve. There's a steep learning curve, right? If you're ready to shadow that, and your past experience, you have shown to yourself and to your employer that you have done that successfully, then you get some confidence. You even want to take the risk and change a job, right? Especially if it's a role that is in line, like what Serena has said, in line with a long-term goal, and you're passionate about, it aligns with your personal purpose in life, and you believe that it's an organization that can support you along the way. But having said that, I'll suggest a caution, because it's not easy to get a job right now. And some companies may not last very long. Some are in the process of going through retrenchments. So it's good to be more circumspect in terms of thinking about new opportunities at the moment. If you're contributing well, if you're an asset to a current company and the company provides you with learning opportunities, I would suggest that you rethink twice before considering switching jobs.
I see. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing with us your opinion on this, Frank. And now moving on to the fourth question. As we all know, COVID-19 has pretty much affected traveling worldwide. And this has consequences on both on a personal as well as on an organizational level. So on this note, we would like to find out, how will COVID-19 affect regional and international job prospects or business expansion plans? So I think Jesher will be able to provide us with some insights on this issue, since he oversees the internationalization plans of Yakun. Jesher?
Yeah, thanks. Okay, firstly, internationalization is both a very grounded discussion, but also it's a bit of it's I would say a bit of a state of mind as well. So what is international? If you are an employee in Singapore, and your business is about opening overseas, some people can do it remotely. You know, it's about take for example a law firm. Everything can be done. A lot of it, I won't say everything, I beg your pardon. A lot of it can be done remotely. But and if you are currently now from audience from around the world, if you are a Singaporean living in another country or an international living in Singapore, that is your international market. If you can afford it, stay and work to gain that experience. That will add to your own journey as well. The reality to me is that there will be a slowdown in internationalization of companies both ways. So my read is that Singapore companies may slow down their growth overseas. I can speak for myself as well. And conversely, other countries, other companies from outside will slow down their entry into Singapore. And let me just quickly share why. What we learned, what we can see right now, and Frank also definitely Frank touched on this, and we can see it, is that right now companies are downsizing. They're cash strapped. Cash flow is tight. So what's the natural reaction for both people and companies and directors going forward? Make sure you can create a strong cash reserve. That's globally. So from government to companies to families, everyone is saying we need to have a cash reserve. We never know what will happen. How are we going to react? So you need a cash reserve. Therefore, companies are going to look to various areas. They're not going to cut off a whole department. I hope not. But the likelihood is they're going to take a little bit from every department, and then scale back a bit of the ambitious plans that we all had in 2018, 2019, and be more realistic. So we are definitely going to see slower growth. Maybe countries, maybe businesses will look into just maintaining the presence in whatever countries they have. No point turning around now. I mean, you're already there. You have investment there to just continue, but not open into new countries, not be so ambitious, and not be so risk-taking. And then similarly, we are not going to see as many foreign companies come, because they themselves are also saving for the future. They are also building up this cash reserve. So we're definitely going to see something of that. But that does not mean that if you are internationally minded, you have no place here, because we will get through this, and there will be a time when globalization will come back, and we are all going to be interconnected once more. So in the meantime, I would say still study, still read extensively, talk to people about the situation there, because how a country reacts is a reflection of the culture of the people there. So for example, China, lockdown, they're very obedient. They all abide, they do their thing. So this is their culture. This is sort of their business. It's a reflection of their culture. New Zealand, other countries, Europe, observe their culture. This is also how they will respond to the recovery. This is how they will respond to, this is how they will recover, and this is how they will help to rebuild their economy. So there is a trend, and use the time now to observe, to study, because everybody likes a country expert, the go-to guy. So if you have a wealth of experience, whether is it physically or extensive reading, research, interviews, you will be an asset wherever you are. So I find that will be something that will come in useful as well. So yes, growth will slow, but it doesn't mean your personal growth will slow down. Keep growing, keep learning. Thanks.
Thank you, Jesher. Now, would Serena or Frank like to add on, perhaps, on how this outbreak will affect international or regional job prospects for individuals?
Okay, maybe I can just add on to what Jesher has said. So if, like what Jesher said, if you are looking at relocation or international mobility, obviously in the short term is very difficult, right? In fact, even for some of the companies I know of, you know, for multinationals, they have employees working, let's say in Singapore, but they were stuck in other countries. Right now, coming back to Singapore is a challenge because they may not be able even to get the work permit being renewed. Right, I think many employers just for the Singapore situation has experienced that, and I think many of you who have studied overseas, back in Singapore right now, you know what I mean, right? So international mobility is a challenge in the short term. Hopefully, when COVID is over and who knows how long it's going to be, 1 year, 1.5 years maybe, then there is a international mobility possibilities. Now, but having said that, as what Jesher said, doing international business doesn't mean having to be relocated to another country. It can be doing it remotely or running a regional business. And for instance, right now, I'm running the business in Asia without being able to go to different parts of Asia, right? My teams who's doing business in Southeast Asia, they're all based in Singapore. So we hire Indonesians, Thais, Malaysians in Singapore, and they will fly into those countries. But now they can't. And so there needs to be some flexibility when we consider international business. But it's good, first of all, to have a global mindset, right? Secondly, it's good to have a network of international connections so that you can actually reach out when the opportunity arises.
Thank you, Frank. Serena, do you have anything to add on this?
I think the other thing that would be important is as you look at regional roles. So to Frank's point, yes, you can do a regional role from one location. You don't really have to travel. But I also agree with Frank's point. We have an employee that we were looking to relocate to Malaysia. And we could not because the whole process stopped because of the COVID-19 and it's delayed that process. Having said that, I think if you're looking at an international or a regional role, should that role come about, it's also important to understand the culture. Jesher mentioned about looking at how people react to the situation, which would reflect how they react to the business moving forward. And this is about culture, right? So there are a number of websites online that you can go to understand the differences in culture of different nationalities. It is important for you to understand because as you're going to have meetings and all that remotely, it's even more difficult to connect with a person on video conferencing compared to if you're there with a person. So understanding the culture, understanding, for example, if a Japanese were to go, that doesn't mean they're agreeing with you, right? They're just saying, I hear you. So it's important to understand all these little nuances so that when you see them on video conferencing, you can pick up on this and there'll be minimize the miscommunication that takes place.
I see. Thank you very much, Serena. And now I think there's some Singaporean students here who are currently studying or who have graduated from universities overseas, just like Sophia and I. So the next question will probably be of great interest to all of you. So what are some advantages that Singaporeans who have graduated from universities overseas or are currently studying there, what kind of advantages might they have in the local job market? And how can they better prepare themselves for local job opportunities, especially if they didn't have any prior internship experience in Singapore? Would any speakers like to share your view on this?
Maybe I'll go. I think there are a number of students here who are studying in China, and I think you have a great advantage there. China is one of the biggest growth markets across Asia Pacific, right? So when we look at, say, fresh graduate to fill a role, and we want someone to have the ability to expand beyond the current job scope eventually, because you don't hire just for your existing role, you hire for growth. Having that experience in China and being able to understand the China market and seeing, bringing your knowledge there to the interviewer and to present to the interviewer what you know, would stand out as an advantage, because we'll go, okay, if we hire this person now, subsequently when we want to grow and develop further in China, there's a possibility maybe we can get this person to oversee the China market as well. So I think those are some of the things that you have. So if you have overseas experience and you want to prepare for it, really explain what you understand, explain what you're seeing, share some of your thoughts and ideas of what you're seeing, where you are. That's the advantage that you have over there. Okay.
I see. Thank you very much, Serena.
Just to add that I agree with Serena. In terms of when employers are looking for people, let's say for a certain market, the cultural awareness and sensitivity, understanding of the market is a key factor to consider. And that's why, in fact, in many universities over the world right now, the good ones at least, you have a stint, right? Regardless of which country you're in, you have a stint in a university in another country for at least one semester, right? And that gives, first of all, an understanding of a different culture, and also develops a global mindset. But let's say if someone who's studying overseas and wants to do a role that's in Singapore, right? So the question is that is it an advantage or disadvantage? So my view is that that's not what employers are looking for. The basic skills of what Jesher and Serena has mentioned about adaptability, about having a growth mindset, about having learning agility, right? About having resilience, right? All these are important besides the technical skills that are required for the job. And during the interview, people would, the employers would really seek to understand whether such qualities are in existence with the candidates. Obviously, in this current world, tech skills are important. As in tech savviness is important. At the same time, being able to work across culture, work with other people, right, and collaborate with other people, and even being comfortable virtually, I think is going to be key, right? Obviously, academic results is one consideration for fresh graduates. I mean, for experienced workers, it's less of a consideration, but for fresh graduates, people do look at this. But I must say, being less and less looking at this, right? There are certain companies who are looking at diversity and inclusion as well. So for people who are, in, I would say, segments that may not be so-called the main segment, there may be some they stand a more favorable chance.
Thank you, Frank. So Jesher, what is your take on this issue?
Okay, so just very briefly, I just want to say that studying overseas, spending time overseas is definitely a privilege, and you have to appreciate and understand that somebody is funding it, whether it is someone is funding your time there, your housing. It can be FMS, it can be a scholarship, right? But if someone is funding it, so it's a privilege. But it's also a little bit of a trade-off, and I say this to the audience who are currently overseas or have experience, is that whether is this okay, we're not talking about direct interview where you just show up and you interview in the good old days, or right now virtual. A lot of times, if you need somebody, an expert in something, or you need, let's say in a freelance industry, let's say you graduated with art, you graduated with music or something like that. When an event or coordinator needs somebody, what do? Do they put up an ad? No, they go to their WhatsApp group and say, hey, anybody knows a last minute, producer or something, or right? So there's a trade-off of the network. So what our dear friends who study in Singapore would have had 4 years of networking, and beyond just the community in the school, freelancing, interning, whatever you want to call it, right? Who have that network. So they will be the first top of mind. So my recommendation to those who are returning, graduating, coming back to Singapore is that first, you have had a wonderful privilege of seeing, tasting, experiencing something that's totally out of the sphere of what your peers around you have. So not to mention, you have to contextualize, because you can't say, no matter how you use words to explain to me what Nanjing is or what Hokkaido is, if you've never been there, you can't follow along. So contextualize your learning back to your market. All right. whether is it London or Bloomsbury or wherever, contextualize it back. But then the next thing is also that network. When you come back, be gentle about it. Don't be the overly zealous individual, but network as well, because you need to catch up. You will definitely need to catch up. Let's say you are a lawyer, you just came back. No one, I mean, you may join a firm, but no one will come to you for advice because just nobody knows that you're a lawyer or a musician or an artist. So you need to network on that front. However, that being said, I also want to address our local graduates, because Singapore is an excellent system, and an excellent system transitioning them into the workforce as well. And they bring a lot to the table. You bring a lot to the table. You bring a lot of grounded experience as well. And sometimes that is also very, very critical. So what you need to do then is to find every opportunity. Now, when you go overseas for holiday, for internship, you can see the lens of, you can see what's happening there through the lens of Singapore, because you gain a Singapore education. Your professors were very much either local professors or foreign professors who have lived in Singapore for very long. So when you go to Dubai, you see Dubai through Singapore lens and how it affects Singapore and things like that. So that is your advantage. So both have different advantages. Be humble to learn, be willing to use it.
Thank you, Jesher. And thank you all so much for your insightful opinions in the moderated discussion. I'm sure all of our audience, or many of our audience, have questions to follow up with, and you may do so now by sending in your questions into the chat room below. Should you wish to direct the question to a specific speaker, please indicate the name of the speaker when you are posting your question. And now let us move on to the Q&A segment. I'll hand the time over to Sophia.
Thank you, Yuki. So the audience has been very enthusiastic in sending in questions, and keep them coming. We'd love to help you address our concerns. So first, I think actually speaking from a student's perspective, a lot of my friends, they have expressed this concern is that the summer internship window is coming up and their plans have been greatly disrupted by the COVID-19 situation. So regarding this, actually Minister Gan also mentioned that commuting will continue as well. So it will be a continuous work from home situation. So the first question would be, are there any changes in plans for internship recruitment for fresh graduates in terms of number of graduates and the method of internship? Yeah. Would any of you like to take on this question? Perhaps Serena or Jesher, since you interact with these graduates more?
Actually, from my end, we haven't, a lot of the roles that we have are mainly for experienced folks, less so for interns, because we're in such niche skill sets. The countries that we are looking for more internship is in Bangalore. So I also oversee our India market. And over there, because I have 1,800 employees in Bangalore, and so there's a lot of roles there, we do take in interns and we groom them and develop them. So I think if anyone were to be interested, that doesn't change. From our Bangalore perspective, when we take in interns, it doesn't change. We still continue taking them in. A lot of their learning is done online to get them ready to contribute to the organization.
Thank you, Serena. Then what about Jesher? Because for your F&B business, I think you interact with more frontliners, as you have mentioned. So will you be taking more interns for this? And how would the mode of internship change, if so?
I would still welcome interns. I think I have to do that. I would, maybe the internship, the internship model will have to change. It may be more flexible. It may be more round table rather than one-to-one in the past, where we only take, we try to curate who we take as well. So learning is free. So I'm very happy to teach. I'm very happy for people to sit in one corner and observe how we do things. Obviously, we may not even go back to office that often. So even then, that is also tricky. But I think if you exhibit a willingness to learn, I think there's something that we are always very happy to teach. can you reiterate your previous question again? Because I got, the previous question. What was that?
My question would be, would the mode of internship change also, like, because we'll be telecommunicating, and so how would you communicate with interns like this?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, I think a lot of the summer internships, like you mentioned, right, the wonderful 3 to 6 month overseas experience, of course that will end, that will stop. But if you can, by all means, please postpone rather than cancel, because that will be a tremendous experience. If not, maybe work first, save the money, and then do your own. You know, find a friend, find an international friend, ask them to find a job for you, something like that. Do that, because that is a really, really good experience. But that has to be postponed. So keep that in your own personal journey, just maybe not now. But we talk about a competitive edge, right? If everybody is not doing the summer internship, there's everybody is still on a level playing ground. So don't worry about that. Don't need to fret. No one's going to discount you because of that. So the truth is that, I mean, we're all going through this now, and it's going to be such a big memory in our history. In everybody's talking about it. So on your resume, when you go for interviews down the road, 5 years down the road, when this is we have all moved on, right? But this is still part of it. You can always say that this was, people will look at your resume and you can explain, this is how I used my time well during COVID-19. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can really mean going down to work in the front line to understand how the frontliners work, for example, to learn a new skill. That it can be anything. It can be cooking, it can be a chef, it can be anything. But you say that this is how I was resilient. Okay, you don't have to call yourself resilient, but this is how I needed to work to earn money. I wanted to save. I picked up any job, and hey, look, I used the time well. Now I know how to do. I know how to cook. I know how to do a particular cuisine. But you show that you are resourceful and things like that in a very difficult time. People may do that. People may not. That's fine. But everybody understands that this is a difficult time. So no one's going to judge you any less for it. So just because you can't do that internship in the US or somewhere, doesn't mean that you can't use your time well. That will reflect well on who you are as well. So maybe that's my take on internship. It can be a self-curated one. It can be, volunteering. It's also an internship, but you put yourself out there. You exhibit that you use your time well. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Serena and Jesher. So I'll do a short summary. So basically, the opportunities are still abundant in some sectors because of how specific they are. And even if the opportunities are reduced due to circumstances, we need not worry too much, because actually everyone will be on the same playing field essentially. And also, this is a pandemic. We should not use the criteria we use to judge productivity in usual circumstances to judge what we are doing right now. So yeah, everything would be okay, and we should just keep an open mind. So moving on, there's another question regarding internships. So for those who would really like to buff up their resumes, start networking on a virtual setting, Frank, do you have any suggestions to them, such as using LinkedIn? How can I improve my employability in this period should I want to turn to the digital platforms?
Right. So first of all, be present on the social media platform professional social media platform. Of course, I know many of you are present in social media platform, but for job seeking purpose, be present, build your brand. I mentioned about, having some details on your profile. Now, I know that for some of you who are studying, it's difficult to share a lot of experience or a lot of job experience, but it's good to share what your CCA experience are, your leadership experience in school, and some of the internship experience that you have. How did you contribute to the organization, right? And also write on your profile about what you are interested in, what you're passionate about, what are the special things that you have done to support social causes. This actually resonates pretty well with some of the employers who has a very strong social purpose in mind. At the same time, network. So as Jesher said, let's say, for instance, you're a lawyer and you're overseas, you're a law student and you're overseas. So you can go to the LinkedIn platform and search all the lawyers in some of the firms that you're interested to be your mentor. In fact, on LinkedIn, you can actually have a mentorship hub. You can actually either provide career advice, or you can actually seek career advice, right? So you network, connect, and also share some of your thoughts, even things that you do for entrepreneurial or social purpose. Do share, because this is something that will elevate your brand, right? But most of it all is that reach out and build a strong network, so that in times where you need them, you will get the advice, you get the support necessary.
Thank you, Frank. So the takeaway would be for me to be braver, for me to share my experiences on such digital platforms, because previously, I think as students, we tend to shy away from sharing about these experiences publicly. We'll think that we are seeking attention of sorts, but I think it's time for us to take on a more mature mindset to present ourselves as opportunity seekers in this situation. So also, moving on, I think when we are talking about the general job prospects in the market right now, things are not looking very optimistic. So on the topic of retrenchment, I believe that there has been a question on the PMET, sorry. So these are a group of people who make up the bulk of those who have been retrenched. So how should this group reinvent themselves to fit into the job market? How can they adapt? Would any of the speakers feel that they want to address this question?
I think we have covered that in part of that conversation where we talk about being adaptable, being part of the tech-savvy organization. So for this PMET, looking at where the trend is, or where the hiring trend is, I guess if you want to open up more opportunities for you, that's where you want to head towards, right? So in this period of time when you're between jobs, let's think of it as being between jobs, go pursue your passion, put that out front, express your passion to people. Number two, understand the latest technology, brush up on your interviewing skills. I think these are some of the things that you can do in preparation for it. And networking, right? We mentioned a lot about networking earlier as well. So making sure that you are in the right networks. You're on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a lot of groups.
Yeah, how do I get up?
Okay. All right. But being on LinkedIn, being in the chat groups as well, right? Make sure that you're networking with people. And there's a lot of conferences like this where you can participate in and get to know the speakers as well, right? Connect with them offline on LinkedIn. Build your connections that way as well. So that's my advice. Frank, anything to add from yourself?
Yeah, just to add that this is a time for you to pick up skills, as Serena has mentioned. Now, I think right now we are not short of online resources, right? Whether you go to Coursera, edX, or in fact, on LinkedIn, we open up 100 courses. We unlock 100 courses for free access for people, right? So go to that, learn some of the skills, including even if you want to do data science, you can have a go to a data science course. And when you finish the program, actually online program, you do get a badge on your LinkedIn profile, right? That allows employers to realize that, hey, actually, you do have some specific skills that are not in your formal education, but you've taken courses, right, online or even classroom courses, and you have additional qualifications. I think that will help you eventually in your job search.
Thank you to Serena and Frank. I think it boils down to the willingness for us to gain new skills in this period of time. There are abundant resources online and offline. Online majority of the opportunities now. So there are a few platforms mentioned, Coursera, LinkedIn, and personally, I think under NYC, they also have advisory.sg, and they also roll out a mentorship program. And Serena has also mentioned a few resources in the chat room. So interested participants, is the best time now for you to collate all these and learn more about it after the forum. So Also on
Sophia,
another, yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
can I just add one thing quickly? Sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to give a bit of optimism to this very difficult topic of retrenchment, right? And I want to say that for a long time, and a lot of us, we compartmentalize skill into pillars. Because your resume is about compartmentalization, this year to year, what I do, under this company, what I did. But you as an individual, and I'm speaking to everyone in the audience, you as an individual, you are not a compartmentalized person. You are not a pillar. Yes, you have accumulated skills, but these skills are just the top of who you are. And it is the top layer of a very complex person that you are. So my encouragement is that don't look down on whatever else you have. Don't just say that, oh, because I have this, I've been working in this industry my whole life, it's not relevant. Don't put yourself down. And also that I think, okay, don't quote me on this, but again, a vast majority of the industries, functions, roles, a lot of them, okay, a majority, I won't say vast majority, a majority of them are not rocket science, all right? So employers, people, they are looking for people who come in with good character skills, good people skills, because we think, I myself included, I use myself as an example, I think that I can transfer whatever tech knowledge I need to use, technical knowledge, in a matter of months. You'll be fine. For example, I do food. I use myself as, would I hire a police officer? Would I hire an army captain? Why not? If he can relate well to people, if he's punctual, if he's reliable, I can teach him how to manage a shop, manage a outlet, you know? Or I can teach him how to set up a new shop in another country because I can trust him. So it does, because, oh, I'm in military, or I have this particular background, I can never cross over, or it's very difficult, or I'm very worried, I don't dare to apply because I wouldn't even make the first cut. In a decade ago, maybe that's true. But today, I think a lot of people view each other as complex individuals with variety of skill sets. You may be strong in one, weak in another, or you may be very, very good in something, but you're also, that translates into something else. And I just want to encourage those who are going through the difficult time like this, putting on top of what Frank and Serena has said about skills, upgrading, learning, showing that you're interested. But then you bring to the table a lot of, if 20 years of something is 20 very, very good years, 20 times 365 working days is a lot of something that any company can benefit from. So I would just, encourage that in this time as well. All right, thanks.
Thank you so much,
I must say I agree, Jesher. Sorry, I have one thing that I think is very important to address with the team, because I deal with so many job seekers. It is important that your mental health is in the right place as well. And I know it is easier said than done, especially when there's insecurity. Okay, so take a step back. What Jesher said is absolutely true. There's so much experience that you've had, and you must reiterate that to yourself so that you bring yourself into a better place. When you have that and you go and meet with the interviewer, you come across as more confident. So mentally, you need to make sure that you're in the right space, and then go for the interview and practice your interviewing skills, practice speaking. That's the other thing. And also the attitude, being willing to learn, willing to hear what the interviewer is saying. Listen with an open mind. It is important. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because I recall a friend that I have, and this friend has got 3 master's degrees, and he could not find a role. And I could not understand why. And when I was sitting with him, I said, what is your salary expectation? And his salary expectation was way below what that role was paying. And I think the reason, and as I probed further, the reason was because when he was going through the interview and the HR was asking him certain personal questions, he got angry. And if you can't even go past that stage, you lose your chance of even landing that role. So I told him, don't think of it that way. Think of it as they're very curious about you, right? That's why they're asking you all these questions. So I think there are a number of things that we need to address. Mentally, you need to make sure that you're in the right space. I said, I know it's not easy. It is very tough, especially when you're between roles. If you need to speak to someone, please speak to someone. Reach out a friend. before you go, try opportunities at roles. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you to all three speakers for giving us much needed encouragement and hope in these trying times. So I've learned that we really need to find the self-strength, and we have to regulate our thoughts, our expectations. So on that point in regulating expectations, there's actually a question by a confused graduate student. She asked, because she's a fresh grad, so she's facing different job opportunities offers now. So the first offer would be one that she doesn't really like but would secure a higher pay. And the second one would be an internship that doesn't pay much but will allow her to learn more. So she's not sure if her choices would be correct in this situation. And she's also concerned that the pay bracket now would affect the pay increment later. So she feels that the first job is very important in terms of setting the path to her future jobs. So she would like to ask, what can she do to address this dilemma? Yeah. Maybe, yeah, I see anyone would like to take this.
Yeah. I will take the first go. So a couple of things. There was this philosophy, if you would, that if let's say you love the job that you do, you don't have to work a single day in your life, right? And so the idea is that if let's say there's a convergence of three goods, what you're good at, that which is good for you. That means you're passionate about, and that which is good for others, which means something that you can contribute to a bigger cause than just doing the daily work, right? And as a result of doing daily work, you can contribute to a bigger cause. Then this is probably in line with what will make you happy in your career. So I would suggest that in terms of pay, unless you desperately need the money, like I did when I first graduated, I needed the money. There's no such thing as career options. But unless you but now I think many of us have options because you do not need to support your parents, and you do not need to pay your study loan immediately. So you can consider a broader perspective for what you want to do for your professional life. Now, does a lower pay now affect the pay in your next job? Again, back to the question on whether pay is the extremely important or maybe the topmost consideration in your career. Because the reality is that if you are doing really what you are excited about, what you really want to do, you will do well. And when you do well, it may take 1 year, 2 years, a few years. But when you do well, not only will you get paid well, but you'll be happy about it because you're contributing to your passion as well as contributing to society. So I would say that if you can, take the pay as one of the considerations, but not the only consideration, or maybe even not the top 1 or 2 consideration. And then you may be happier, you may be more fulfilled in your professional life.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. So I think Serena, how should graduates address this kind of bread and butter issues, like this dilemma about the pay and the interest?
I think Frank has hit the nail right on the head. I think he's absolutely right. If financially you're okay, money is not a big consideration. Sometimes it's more important to take a step back, to take a bigger leap forward. And I'm just thinking through myself, right? As I was growing my own career, I started my career really in learning and development, which is a portion of HR. And I said, okay, I'm going to be HR director one day, right? That's where I want to be. But I can't just continue in learning and development and end up being HR director. So I have to have the bandwidth of experience. So conscientiously, I went to look for a job that would give me the experience. But because I didn't have the experience in all the other things, that employer said, okay, we can give you this job, but you're going to have to take a pay cut. And I remember thinking, yeah, it's okay, because I'm going to learn something that's going to add on to where I want to be at the end of the day. So that was a choice that I made. It turned out well because I managed to gain all the experiences that I wanted to get me to my end goal at the end of the day. So I guess if financially I needed that money and I did not have that option, then there's no option. You just take whoever pay you the highest and go for it, right? But if you have an option, I think you should think of it as ultimately where's your end goal and where do you want to be. You must set yourself a target and aim towards that.
Thank you. Jesher?
Okay, can I do something? We have about just in 2 minutes, right? Can we get everyone? Can we poll the audience? Actually, I really am curious also. For those who want to know the context, this is from Joanna Ng. I think about maybe 15 comments up or so. So can I, moderator Sophia? Can I do it? Okay. So you have two options, right? So the clapping or the thumbs up. So let's categorize clapping as taking the job that pays better and maybe kind of paves the way forward, but not something that you are super passionate about. But it kind of starts you on a better footing in terms of financially, versus taking a risk, starting with a lower pay, but doing something, or in the current industry, maybe not your dream, but in the right industry that you've always wanted to do, but at a bit of a pay disadvantage. Okay, so the first one is the clap, the other one is the thumbs up, right? The clap is the better pay, not compromising on maybe a bit of your desire. Thumbs up is the other one. Can you just quickly poll your alert? We can quickly see. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm just gonna quickly scroll through and look around. Thank you. Thank you. For the sake of time, I'll just be very brief. I hope you don't mind. Okay. Am I right to say that I see a lot more? I see a couple more thumbs ups. I have to scroll. I apologize. Okay. So obviously, thank you everybody. I thought it would just be interesting to get a sense if there was an overwhelming choice. Definitely see some of both, but I think I do just get a sense that it's just a few more thumbs up. Obviously, there is no set answer, right? There is no set answer. It is your own journey, and the thing about your own journey is that your career is a journey. There are U-turns in the journey. You can start wrong, do something that you thought you love, get into the industry, realize that you really cannot survive there. It could be biotech, a restaurateur, an entrepreneur, and you realize that life has taken you a different direction. That's fine. Or it can be that you started off wrong, thinking that it was wrong, and then realize that, hey, I'm very, very good at dealing with people. I can be HR, I can be I just take what I want to take, but like marketing or something, and I'm really good at it. I like it. So who knows? I mean, so a lot of it, obviously, there's a lot of path. It's a journey, all right? Your steps can be guided by, your steps are also guided and very much planned for. So my recommendation to Joanna is that, okay, firstly, there is no set answer. But just building on what the two other speakers said, I do want to add one thing though. If you like what you're doing, and you show that you like what you're doing, you will naturally be better at it. And when you are better at it, you'll get more opportunities. Opportunities beget opportunities. Unfortunately, in the work environment, we say work begets work lah. If you're good at it, very often the boss will give you more work. But that is good for you in that way. Okay, if you look at it that way, it's good for you. So if you are doing something that you enjoy and people can see in your eyes, the rewards will come later. But you are actually also doing a better. You are setting yourself up for success later down the road. You may not get the money now. You may not get other monetary rewards now. You may be bypassed in the meantime for somebody older or something, whatever. But when people can see and acknowledge that, people acknowledge a talent, or people acknowledge passion as well. So maybe there's something to consider, but there is no set answer. It's really up to an individual's stage of life as well. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think the main takeaway is that maybe we shouldn't emphasize the importance, the significance of the first job so much, because when we look back, maybe everything would connect the dot eventually. So just follow our heart and have passion in whatever we do, and it will bring us more opportunities along the way. So on this note, I think that time is coming to an end also. So are there any final advice from all three speakers? Can we have one-liners from all of you?
Maybe I'll start. So following from what Jesher says, there's this philosophy that the careers is not a ladder, where you go one step above another, from executive to senior executive, then to manager to senior manager. But career is not exactly a ladder as we used to envisage to be, but rather is a jungle gym where you swing from tree to tree. In other words, opportunity for opportunity to opportunity. But importantly, you need to strengthen your swinging muscles so that you're able to swing to the right opportunities, to the trees where there are fruits, and also build a network such that you have a safety net below you, such that in case you fall, that there is a network, there's a safety net amongst your network to support you to get back up to the tree again.
Thank you so much for the cute analogy. Then Serena or Jesher, would you like to speak? Okay,
yes, I think at the end of the day, you have the whole world beyond you right now. Before you, the whole world is your oyster. Your job is just a part of your life, and all our lives, well, like it or not, is finite. Come to a certain time, it's time for us to leave the world. So in the time that you have, enjoy your journey, whatever comes. As what Jesher has said, sometimes you realize, oh, wrong, this path is a bit wrong, want to U-turn. So be it, that is your path in life. Enjoy it, enjoy every moment of it. And with everything that you experience, there'll be something to learn from it. And that will strengthen you individually as a person. So all the best to everyone. I wish you much success in whatever you choose as your next steps.
Thank you. Thank you, Serena. Yep.
Thank you. Yeah. And I just wanted to change my background to show you the outlet because I just wanted to remind everybody, okay, obviously this picture was taken during better times, right? But the point is that we are going through something together, and we will get through it together. We will definitely get through it together. And I just wanted to remind everyone to plan ahead, to plan long term. I mean, the current situation is very painful and it's very difficult. And we need to work together to get through it. But there will also be a time when this will be a memory. So think ahead, plan ahead, remind yourself of the good times, look forward, look ahead, and then care for each other. We are all here together. I'm happy to take, I'm sure me, Frank, Serena, we are all happy to take PM questions, or you can find us on, I don't know, you just find us somewhere, or ask Sophia how to find us. But if there are any more questions, I would love to help, because I know that it's very difficult for you, and you are at a crossroad, a pinnacle, and if we can help in any way we can. But I just want to remind you, this will pass. Let's get through this together, and all the very best. And it's a journey. So think long, think ahead. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much for all three speakers' heartfelt messages. I think today's session has been a very empowering one. You've helped us found the confidence that we'll need to tackle these trying times. So thank you so much. And moving on, regarding the resource pooling, actually we do have something in line for the audience. So can we have the slide on the survey form, please? So basically we curated this survey form for the audience to submit your feedback, and we'll have forum materials available once you finish this survey form. So that will include the slides deck and the podcast and transcript. So we'll include these resources that the speakers can recommend into the slides deck, and their contact information if they are willing to share. So feel free to submit this form, take a picture now of the QR code, and we appreciate your responses, and we'll send out the materials afterwards. Yeah, so on this note, can everyone switch on your video cameras? Let's take a group photo. Yep.
Okay, I'll be taking a group photo.
Yay!
So everyone turn on your cameras.
See a lot of young
Okay.
faces.
Yep. Okay, so I'll be taking the photo in countdown. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Everyone pose. Okay.
Yay!
Okay, one more photo.
Okay,
one more photo. Okay. 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 3, 2, 1. Smile. Okay, got it. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. So once again, thank you everyone. Thank you to our 3 speakers for taking time off their busy schedules. And thank you to all our audience for tuning in on a Saturday night to listen to us. And thank you to our supporting organizations for all your help. We are immensely grateful. So it has been our pleasure hosting and moderating tonight. And it will be the end for now. And we hope to see you at our next session in June, which will be on social work and ground-up initiatives. Thank you so much, everyone. Yep. You can feel free to take note of the resources first and take a picture of this QR code. Bye-bye.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.